Hello, everyone. It's Amanda Testa here with Find Your Feminine Fire. And today I am super excited to be talking with the lovely Lacey Broussard. And Lacey is a sex and intimacy coach as well as a mama of four. And today we're going to be talking all kinds of good stuff on what it means to be a multi-orgasmic mama. But first, I just kind of wanted to introduce Lacey. And she is an amazing woman. She not only has been very well versed in women's health, but she is really working to break the taboo around sex and motherhood in the Deep South, Lafayette, Louisiana, which I can relate to from Georgia. But she really works with women and moms who have found themselves kind of wondering what happened to their sexuality after having kids. Are they ever going to feel connected to their partner again? Maybe they feel hating on their post-baby body, but she uses deep transformational tools and beautiful techniques based in modern coaching technologies and tantra and Taoist practices, helping them liberate their inner multi-orgasmic potential, experience ecstatic motherhood, and tap into deep soul connection with themselves first and foremost, and their partners as well. She's also been a birth doula since 2011, which I think is amazing. I love birth so much. And she also produces the Multi-Orgasmic Mama podcast, which just launched, so super exciting. But yeah, Lacey, thank you for being here.
Yes, so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
And please, I would love if you would share a little bit more on your story and kind of what led you to this work. Because I know being from the Deep South and being super busy as a mom of four, like what's your journey?
Yeah, good question. Well, when it pretty much started when I was a teenager, right? That's where most stories start. When I was 17, I had like this teenage love thing that went on and totally got abandoned. And ever since then, it was like this part of me just shut down after that. So I went from being like this, normal teenager to being this extremely depressed, not emotionally available at all person. And so I'm from the New Orleans area in Louisiana, and I had saved up a bunch of money through high school to leave because I really needed to get away from the area, from my parents, from the teenage love thing, the whole thing. I just wanted to escape. So as cool as it sounds, I saved up a bunch of money and flew to Denver, actually, where you are, Amanda, and went to Denver, and I met the first emotionally unavailable person that wanted anything to do with me, and that became my kid's dad. So looking back on the whole ordeal, it was totally like he was a perfect person to be with, actually, because he was just somebody that was never going to emotionally be able to meet me where I wanted to go. But it worked at the time because I too was emotionally unavailable and couldn't get intimate with someone. I couldn't be seen by anyone because I just had this fear that if I got intimate and was seen by someone else, then they would leave. So, it was just this whole journey after that of coming back to myself. And that didn't start, I didn't even start to crack open until I had my first baby. And well, this is almost exactly 10 years ago. And I had went to college to become an OBGYN. So I had seen a bunch of births, and I went and toured the hospital with an anesthesiologist and saw a lot of C-sections. So when I did get pregnant, I was like, yeah, no, I want to go the natural route. I don't want a C-section, anything we got to do to avoid that. So I took the Bradley method classes. It was like the only thing available at the time. And after the second week of getting some pretty in-depth childbirth ed, I was like, screw this. I'm not even going to the hospital. Like, why am I going to deal with this shit?
Oh, that's so funny.
I decided to have a home birth, and I quit going to my doctor. I think I went a total of 3 times throughout my whole pregnancy. And the last time I went, I was 37 weeks. And I literally just went to make sure my baby wasn't breech. I tried to find a midwife, and every time I'd meet one, I was just like, you know what? I'm just not feeling like they're going to allow me the freedom that I want to have in my birth experience either. So I was just like, you know what? I feel like we just need to do it ourselves. So that's what we did. I had an unassisted birth at home with my ex-husband, and that experience was like the most wild and free and primal awakening. It was like an initiation back into my body that made me feel something for the first time when I was 23 at the time. So that was probably 5 or 6 years since, I had that initial emotional shutdown. So having my first baby totally cracked me open. And literally ever since he was born, it was just, like time to evolve. I obviously wanted to be a good mom for him. I wanted to be emotionally available to my kids. I wanted to teach them what it meant to connect to other human beings in a really meaningful way. So from that point forward, I started reading every self-help book in the library. I started doing A Course in Miracles. I went to the Miracle Center. There's one in Denver, the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center. I went there and got some spiritual teachings, really studied something different than Christianity. I was born and raised Southern Baptist, and I didn't vibe with it anymore, and I didn't know what else there was, so I was just searching. So I went through this long period of searching, and then I had my second baby at Denver General Hospital. He was a preemie. He was born 5.5 weeks early, I think. So yeah, I had him in the hospital, and that was an amazing experience as well. I had him, and once labor started, it was 30 minutes. So it was an extremely fast birth. But after that, I realized that, what, if I can have the most awesome unassisted home birth and the most awesome hospital birth, even though I had all the odds stacked against me with him being preemie and the total change of plans with having to go to the hospital and everything. I want to be a doula. I want to teach other people how to do this and hold space for them and their births too, because it's such an amazing transformative time in a woman's life. And it's we don't have enough people supporting women in their decisions. So
can I speak to one quick thing about that? Because
Yeah.
I have to shout out to how powerful doula is. I actually had a team of doulas who helped me in my birth. But it was interesting because I did hypnobabies. Mm-hmm. And in my hypnobabies class, there was a doctor and a nurse who worked in the delivery at Swedish hospital. And so it was interesting because there was also another nurse there. But how, people in that are obviously there's a time and place for medicine. And I think modern day really kind of teaches women that we aren't powerful enough to do it on our own, and we can't handle it. We need support, which is fine. However you choose to bring your puppy baby into the world is fine. However, I do feel we have kind of become so disconnected from that innate power that we have as women to birth a kid, bring life into the world, and that, if it's something that you're into, to give it a try, to do it in that way, to really tap into your power that you can do it. It's freaking incredibly amazing. So I just have to shout out to that because I think doulas are awesome.
Yay, thank you. Yes, they are, and they provide such a valuable service. And unfortunately, it's such a valuable service that most women don't understand the value of it until it's too late, or until, it's always this. When they hire me, they're like, I don't know why you charge so much. Can you just reduce your rates? I'm like, no. And then always after, it's the exact opposite. I can't believe you only charge that much. Because they see the value in it after the fact. So, it's an extremely valuable service, but unfortunately it's really hard to explain that value to women in a way that makes them want to take part in it. But yes, I totally agree. Having another woman there just to hold the container and set a container of safety and true just trust in this woman that, no matter what, I'm not giving up on my clients. I'm not going to give up on you. I know you can do this. It's just knowing that there's another woman who 110% believes in you. It's that changes everything,
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. After I became a doula, I went to a lot of births. I worked at a birth center here in Lafayette, Louisiana for a little over a year. And then I after doing it for so long, it's like, how do you tap into that primalness, like on a regular basis? Like I kept thinking, how, like there's just this quality of rawness and birth that it's so tangible, when a woman's left to herself to do and move how she pleases. It's very tangible when you walk into a birth room, whether or not she's tapping into that or not. And I was like, how do you tap into that without having to have babies again? I knew I didn't want any more babies. I was actually single at the time. I had gotten divorced from that emotionally unavailable person because I knew I wanted to create a relationship where I could connect with somebody. I just didn't know how or when that was going to happen. So I came across a Facebook ad that talked about, being wild and free in the bedroom. And just those words, wild and free, really popped out to me. I was like, I don't know what this bedroom part is, but I'm still interested in it. So I downloaded this ebook. It was from our mutual teacher, Layla Martin. And from that, I took a business training course, Marie Forleo's B School, and I signed up through B School from Layla's affiliate link. And because I did that, I got the Jade Pleasure class for free. So I started, I did the Jade Egg class, and it was such an amazing experience for me because I grew up with so much shut down around my body and my sexuality, being raised Baptist. And, it was extremely, I just remember being in the bathtub when I was 12, looking at the fact that my chest was changing and absolutely dreading the fact that I was going to be a woman. And it was such a horrible transition to go from, being a free, ecstatic little kid to, oh no, oh my God, now I have to become a woman sort of thing. And there was just something inherently wrong with it. And I knew that, and I didn't know what I needed to do to change that, So when I started doing the Jade Egg practices, it took me like 3 weeks to even get the thing inside. I think I attempted it like 10 different times. It's like, nope, can't do it. Nope, not happening today. Could have sex, no problem, but could not put that stinking Jade Egg up my vagina. It just was not going to happen. And one day I just had just enough courage just to do it. And I did. And I started doing regular practices, 10 to 15 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times a week. And I stuck to it because I really, really wanted to know what it felt like to be accepting of my body and to not hate it. I wanted to know what it was like to love my breasts and not hate them. Not only because I had them, but because I had breastfed and my boobs were saggy and I didn't like them. So I really wanted to know what it was like to actually love my body again, or at all. So probably after 3 or 4 months of doing Jade Egg, I woke up one morning at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and it was like I could see all of these clouds of, I don't know, gray and black. It was like demons like leaving my body, and it was like of all this shame and this guilt just leaving my body. And from that moment on, I have seriously never felt another ounce of shame or body hate. I mean, of course I have my thoughts, like everyone has thoughts about, I wish this would look different or whatever, but it's never ever been the same. Like not that level of hate, not that level of disgust, like that was gone, like literally overnight. So, working on myself, I had to clear all of that. And then I kept noticing that when I would do my postpartum appointments with my clients, my doula clients, they would talk about how unexcited they were about having sex again. And I started realizing that, wow, there's really something to this. Like women aren't rehabbing from birth and their sexuality. So I was like, how in the world can we help women? And I just had this feeling that Jade Egg would be really helpful for them if you could get them to do it, if you could teach them how to do this practice as a new mom. Mm-hmm. And so I started teaching women Jade Eggs like a year and a half ago. Actually, it was probably longer than that, maybe 2 years ago. I did a workshop at my house. Like I started talking about it. I started blogging about it. I started telling all of my clients about it. And I wanted to know how to help these women more. And then literally like a week after, I was like, maybe I should become a postpartum doula. I don't know. I want to help them postpartum, but I don't know how. Then I got an email for a sex, love, and relationship coaching training to really dive into that and learn how to help people. So I signed up with that in mind. Like I want to help moms have a really amazing sex life after having kids. So yeah, that's everything that led me here. That was a mouthful, but there we are.
Well, I think it's so powerful that, I think so many women don't realize that it's so common to feel that after having kids, or, even if it's been 5 years ago, that it takes, it takes an intention to kind of bring that back. And I think it's amazing, like, to be able to work with women postpartum. I can only imagine, like, if I had learned these tools 5 years ago, how different it would be. But thankfully I did find them. My daughter was 2 at the time. But I feel like so many women do go through this where they're feeling, like they don't have desire, or they don't have libido, or they don't even want to have sex, or they have zero desire. And it's so, it can bring a lot of challenges into the relationship and strife and all that stuff. But it doesn't have to be that way. But, and I think too, and just knowing that you're not alone if that's you, and that it's so common. And, even though it's really hard to talk about sometimes, is there's such good, nowadays, luckily there's a lot more resources and support around it. So I think that is so positive, and not feeling like you're broken or something's wrong with you. It's just, this is just a normal part of it. And yeah, I love that. So thank you for the work that you're doing. It's so important.
Yeah. When I first started teaching JDEG, I got a lot of comments from women about, they didn't like what I was talking about. They didn't like that I was, maybe in their mind, I was saying, you should have your fullness of your sexuality back by the time you're 6 weeks, which is not what I was saying. But it was like, look, this is what you can do to help yourself, So yeah, I had women that would comment and be like, well, it's totally normal to not have your sex drive back for years. I'm like, you're right. You're right. It's not. Like, I'm not saying that this is the way it's supposed to be or not supposed to be. I'm just saying that, you can do something for yourself to help make it better for you. You can do things. It's not a hopeless cause, and I think that women get stuck in this state. And that's what I was noticing, is that it was a helpless cause. Like, they were just never going to have their sex drive back, and that it was, their best days of sex was behind them. And that's not the case. You can get it back. There are tools, there are techniques, there are practices you can do. So yeah, just had to make that point too.
Well, and so with the women that you work with, I know the JDEG has been a very important tool that you use. And I know many women are kind of intimidated or kind of afraid to go there with the JDEG, but knowing that's normal. But would you say that, what kind of, you mentioned yourself, you were, had a hard time, at least for a while, to be able to even go there with the practice. So what do you think switched for you that, really kind of made it so you weren't as afraid to do it, and that you had the, that push to go for it?
Well, really, it was a desire for things to be different. And I think a lot of women lack that as well, especially the first years of motherhood, because your sole purpose really is to keep your kid alive. Like, that's biology, it's nature, it's natural, and it's normal. But, at some point, you've got to start realizing that, I'm worth taking care of. I'm worth investing in. I'm worth having desires, because, that's when we hear about women losing themselves in motherhood. It's when they get stuck in this constantly having to, keep their kid alive and survive. And everything's about their kid mode. And then it's not about that. Like, eventually they grow up, eventually they're going to leave the house, and like, there should be this steady progression of independence, where some people just get stuck in this, having to constantly do for their kid. But really connecting to your desire bit by bit, more and more, the older your kids get, is super important. Like, you've got to do that, because your kid is not your life. yes, you gave life to it, and yes, you're responsible for it, but you are way more of a person than just a mom. You know, everyone has desire, and if you have that type of desire where, like, I really want a better sex life, then just that desire alone can kick you in the butt enough to go do something about it. I don't think it always has to be negatively driven. Like, well, maybe if I don't figure out how to fix my lack of desire, then I'll end up divorced. A lot of women, that's the only way to really get them into this practice is a fear that their relationship might actually be over. And, sometimes that's what it takes, but it doesn't always have to, just a desire to make things better and to really embrace the fullness of who you are, because your sexuality is you, it's such a huge part of you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not experiencing joy in it, then you're not experiencing joy in all of life. So
I feel like especially as a mother, it's a whole different, kind of experience once you've had a child and realize this huge power to create life within you. And also kind of feeling you're redefining who you are as a woman. Once you have a kid, you have a whole new life. And that is a challenging thing to navigate in itself. And I feel like personally, like that sexuality piece is the missing key. Like for me, I always say, like, I really believe that the sexuality piece is the missing key in personal growth and development, because you can read a million self-help books, but unless you like have that embodied experience of tapping in and like learning to be okay with who you are and this new version of you, and how to present that to the world and be the best for yourself and your family, so powerful. So I want to ask you this, because I know this is one of the things that so many women say, like, oh, I'm just so busy. I mean, I have no time. And you, busy woman, I am always impressed by you, because A, you have 4 kids and you have a million things going on, yet you still find time. And so how do you do that? How do you make time for this?
Well, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's a priority. That's all it is. Like, if you make something a priority, you're going to make time for it. I don't magically get to add hours in my day. I don't. I have the same as you and anyone else out there listening. But it's a priority. Taking care of myself, and beyond that, just really working on my level of presence, because it's not just about self-care. It's not just about, like, we have a ton of people going around proclaiming self-care, self-care. That's awesome. Please do that. But there's more to just that. There's more to that. And it's really about, my light keeps going off. I'm so sorry, but I'm just going to have to put that away. But it's really about you're developing your presence and the quality of how you show up in your life. And if that means I have to devote 45 minutes to meditation and a sexual practice because I want to show up in the fullness of who I am, I want to show up in my ecstasy and in my passion for life. I want people to see it radiating from me to, help them be like, oh my God, why does she look so young and youthful and vibrant and radiant and yet, like, what does she have? And I want to show them what I have. It's a dedication to, I want to show up in full presence and love and a place of being able to give from an overflowing cup, not from lack, because it doesn't work. It does not work. If it can for a short amount of time, but eventually it's going to make you sick if you're just showing up from a place of overgiving and, constantly doing for everyone else. It's going to wear you down. So yeah, I don't have more time. I just make it a priority.
That's huge. And I'm sure, you didn't get to this part, but you are remarried now, and your husband's very supportive of this. And I think I love how you've created this Multi-Orgasmic Mama podcast. And I think what you spoke to is such a great description of that. So how would you describe being a multi-orgasmic mama?
Okay. Well, yeah, I didn't get to the part that I did get remarried. I met my husband 5 years ago, and probably about 3, we did an Epic Lovers course together. And from that point forward, it was, just this whole initiation into Tantra and into what you could experience with a partner and an initiation back into intimacy. So I did reclaim that part of me. It only took like 14 years, maybe more. I don't know, 14, 15, something like that. But I did. And through reclaiming intimacy and connection with myself and with a partner, I opened up my multi-orgasmic potential. And it took a lot of clearing first. So, what your question was, what does it mean to be a multi-orgasmic mama?
Yeah. What does it mean to you?
Yeah. So it really means to me that you clear out all of the shit that's holding you back from embracing the fullness of who you are so that you can. And when you can, it's like, it is a multi-orgasmic wave. It's like this, this energy that's always present for you when you want to tap into it. It's always there. It's like it's the energy of orgasm is always there for you whenever you want to go there. So yeah, it means clearing out everything that's keeping you from tapping into that energy, really.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you made me ask that because I never really thought about that. But now that was a really great answer, actually.
Well, it's so true. And I think, it also does lead, it's that deep presence that you mentioned earlier. And how when you're able to tap into that deep presence, you are presenting like the most calm, patient version of yourself when your kids are melting down, right? You're able to support your partner when you feel them getting triggered versus like going into that, you can be like, oh, let me just try to see that he's about to lose it. So I'm going to try to step up my game and support him versus going back and forth. Like you have this presence to tap into this different energy where you can fully experience without like projecting or without, losing your shit. I know at least for me, like I can tell you, I still like have a meltdown about 15 times a day about something. And now it's maybe once a day, which is a huge, that's like life-changing. When you are, I think I grew up with that. My family was very reactive and there was lots of screaming and chaos all the time and caused a lot of anxiety for me. And I don't want that for my family and for my daughter. So I don't know. That's when I think of it, what that means to me is more of that like deep presence and this like beautiful energy you can tap into to help you be the best version of yourself in all situations, especially when things get hard. And that happens in parenting and relationships.
God, no kidding, right? Yeah, it seems like such an ironic thing to think about your kid having a temper tantrum and you tapping into the multi-orgasmic energy of the universe at the same time. But I'm here to tell you it's possible. Oh my God, yes. Anytime one of my kids has a meltdown, I'm just like, there's so much more available to me than having a tantrum myself, like there are other experiences available now, and it's because of like, I've worked on it a lot, I've worked on not reacting, of just being present, and it is a practice. Like I think the most valuable thing my husband and I got from taking that Epic Lovers course was learning how to hold space for each other. It was absolutely the biggest transformational thing for our relationship, was especially for him, because I could fly off the handle sometimes, but I'm really cool and calm and collected 90% of the time, but he not so much. So having him learn how to hold space when I am having a meltdown, that was valuable in and of itself. But then it empowered him to start to take charge of his own emotions and his own experience more, because he started to learn how, he could use holding space for me, for him as well. So that was a really transformational experience for both of us, to practice not reacting, of just letting someone be in their freaking tantrum in the worst space that they could be in, and just letting them be, not trying to change them, not trying to fix them, not trying to give them advice. Anybody can give anybody advice. You can go talk to your best friend if you want advice, but oftentimes that's not what what your partner needs. A lot of the times they just need to be seen. They need to be heard, and they just need to be held and the experience that they're having. And that's it. Like, no one teaches us that. No one teaches us that. Ever growing up, probably very few of us were taught that from our own parents, of how to just be there. And when you learn that with your partner, it makes it so much easier to do that for your kids, because that's a lot about what mothering is just freaking being there. You can't fix all of the fuck ups they're going to make when they're 16. Like, you can't fix all of those things. You really can't. Sometimes you just have to let them learn their lessons, but you're always there. And that's unconditional love. That's letting them know, like, look, I'm not trying to fix you. I'm not trying to like make everything better for you, but I'm always going to be here for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
So the holding space piece is huge. I would love to know if there's another, any other one favorite practice or one favorite tip you could share with the ladies today on just, how they could kind of bring in some of this multi-orgasmic energy into their everyday life.
One tip for doing that?
Yeah. Or one of your favorite, easy to share practices, maybe.
Wow, that's hard to narrow down to one thing. Honestly, the Fears, Desires, Loves practice. I don't know if you have that available to your audience, Amanda, but I have that on my website as an opt-in. But that is a really amazing tool to learn how to hold space for each other. And I think probably the best practice that I could do on myself was personal meditation, guided meditation. I know it sounds super basic and it's not even sexuality based, but I never enjoyed meditation until this year, until I started having to do guided meditation that really helped me find the depths of me and find the experiencer inside of me. I didn't even I don't even know what the fuck enlightenment is, but whatever it is, it must have been something close to that in that moment. So yeah, there's this one meditation in particular that I do on a regular basis that you're invited to step into the witness of whatever you're experiencing and to witness it from a distance. And then you step into being the experience itself. So it's like it's right there, like you're kind of in it, but not really. And then being the experiencer, or the one, watching it all and the one experiencing it. And that piece has brought me closer to the core of who I am and has really expanded my bandwidth of being able to hold whatever the fuck emotion you want to come here with. Because I'm now capable of being like, yep, this is really happening. And I can hold that too. I can be here and I can be present with this too. I can be present with a much wider range of emotion than I ever thought would be possible from this guided meditation. I don't even know what it's called, but so I don't know if I could point you to a particular practice, but
that's sorry, weird echo.
Yeah.
But I think you did describe it well. So if you find yourself in an experience where you're having an emotional reaction that's strong, that you kind of look at it from a few different perspectives, right? The one, you're standing outside watching it. The two, you're kind of like, you're in the experience and, just observing your own self, like holding space for yourself while you're experiencing it, which I know kind of sounds a little out there, but I think that was a pretty good explanation of how to do it. So thank you.
Yes.
So, and then I also am so excited because you have just launched your new podcast. Can you talk a smidge about that if you would?
Yeah. Yes, it's the Multi-Orgasmic Mama podcast. And it's all about breaking the taboo of sex and motherhood. We don't live in a time anymore where you have to hang up your sexuality to be a good mom. And I don't think that that's said enough. So that's the whole premise of the podcast, is to let other women know from hearing from other women. So it's an every other week format. Every other week you get an interview with someone else. And that when you don't get an interview, you hear it just from me, where I do some teaching. And it's all about reclaiming the fullness of your sexuality, reclaiming your whole sexuality for you, even as a mom. And sometimes because you are a mom, because that was my journey. You know, I could have never reclaimed my sexuality and the perfectness of my body had I never become a mom, because I needed to go through that to wake me up. Like, that was the initial thing that woke me up, was having my baby. Mm-hmm. So that's, you know, it's very near and dear to my heart, motherhood, because it literally is the thing that woke me up enough to start on this journey. So, yeah, I mean, we have amazing interviewees. Amanda's going to be on it very soon. Quite a few other health coaches and other sexuality experts. I have an OBGYN doctor. I have a naturopathic doctor on, so pelvic floor specialists. So lots of amazing people that are extremely versed in sexuality and motherhood, because I don't think anyone is really combining these two things as much as Amanda and I are. You know, it's such an invaluable topic and discussion to have, because women need to know that it's safe now. Like, we can do this. It's time. It's past time. Like, we don't have to hide. We don't have to pretend like we're a little helpless mom here, you know. No, fuck that. We're done with that. That age is over. Nope. We're on to a new era, and we're starting it, you know. So
that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, I'll pop your website up here too, and I'll also put it in the notes so that everybody can find Lacey, and you can find her podcast on her website or also on iTunes, right?
Mm-hmm. And I can use Stitcher.
And then I'd also love if you share if there's anything else that you have going on that you want everyone to know about, or anything, any last words you'd like to share with the ladies today?
Just the podcast. That's my biggest thing right now. That's my main focus. If you could go on, and if you like what you hear, leave a review and a rating. I would so appreciate it, because we want to get on that new and noteworthy section. So as many mamas as possible hear the message of reclaiming our sexuality and motherhood.
Yes, so beautiful. And let me ask you one more question, because this is just something that popped into my head. And so, you know, if there are women listening that don't even know what that first step would be, what would you say could be their first step?
Their first step to reclaiming their sexuality? Mm-hmm. Learn about it. Learn about it. You weren't taught anything about it. I can tell you now, if you had the best sex educator in 7th grade, you still know nothing. You still know nothing about sex. If you haven't read any books, if you haven't educated yourself on your own anatomy and physiology, you probably know nothing in the grand scheme of things. At least that was my experience. You know, our sex ed teachers in biology 101 were talking to us about how to prevent pregnancy and STDs. They didn't teach us about our anatomy. And I think that that is so important, that women actually understand their anatomy, because that's where it starts. Like, if you can't name it, if you don't have a name, then there's no beginning. Like, most of us weren't even taught what to call our vulvas and our vaginas, like down there or wee-wee or whatever. I don't know what you call it. I know I didn't have a name for it until I was probably 25. It's pathetic, you know? So learn about it. Get some books. Good ones to start are Vagina by Naomi Wolf, I think. Wild Feminine. Oh my God, that was my favorite of all of them, I think, by Tammy Lynn Kent. What is the one? Oh, I'm trying to think.
I love The Woman's Anatomy of Arousal by Sherry Winston. That's one of my faves.
Yeah. There's another, Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. That one really helps women understand their sexual desire. That's not based on a male model, because everything that we're taught about sex and our bodies is based off of what men experience. So you probably know very little about your own desire, and you probably have very little understanding of how it all works and operates, because no one teaches us that. You got to go read it. You got to go read it in a book. You know, it's sad, but you do. So yes, that's where I would start, is educating yourself. Beautiful. on your own body.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Thank you so much. And two, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. And if we don't get to them now, we can come back and answer them later. Lacey's in the group, so you can always reach out. And I'll make sure to post the link to the podcast so you can listen in and hear all kinds of great interviews on combining sex and motherhood and breaking that taboo. So thank you so much again, Lacey, for being here. It was so lovely talking with you.
Yes, thank you, Amanda.
All right, everyone, have a beautiful day, and we will see you soon.